Imagine standing on the edge of the Golden Gate Bridge, looking down at the dark, churning water of the San Francisco Bay. It's August 26, 1993. The wind is howling, the fog is rolling in, and a man named Roy Raymond is about to make a decision that will end his pain forever. Most people walking past him just see a middle-aged man in a coat. They don't know that this man is the founder of the most famous lingerie brand in history. They don't know that just a few years prior, he held the keys to an empire that would soon be worth over $1 billion. But here is the tragic reality. Roy Raymond isn't standing there because he lost $1 billion. He's standing there because he sold his soul for $1 million, and the regret is eating him alive. You might think you know the story of Victoria's Secret. You've seen the angels, the runway shows, the glitter. But you are about to discover why everything you learned in school was wrong. This isn't just a business story. It is a modern Greek tragedy about genius, greed, and the deadly cost of not understanding who you are really selling to. Let's rewind the clock to 1977. Picture the world of retail in the late 70s. The sexual revolution has technically happened, but if you walk into a department store to buy underwear, it feels like you stepped into a convent. The lighting is harsh, buzzing fluorescent strips that make everyone look sickly. The racks are stuffed with what Roy Raymond later described as ugly floral print nylon nightgowns. And the smell? It smells like boredom and utility. He's sharp, he's reserved, and he is deeply in love with his wife, Gay. One afternoon, he decides to buy her some lingerie as a gift. He walks into a department store, and immediately he feels the eyes on him. The saleswomen, matronly and stern, look at him like he's a predator. In a 1981 interview with Newsweek, Raymond recalled the feeling vividly. "I always had the feeling the department store saleswomen thought I was an unwelcome intruder." But here's where the genius kicks in. Roy realizes that he isn't the only man who feels this way. There is a massive gap in the market. He thinks, what if I created a store where men felt comfortable buying lingerie? This is the spark. Roy borrows $40,000 from his family and another $40,000 from the bank. He and Gay pick a location at the Stanford Shopping Center in Palo Alto. But they don't build a typical store. They build a fantasy. Picture this. You walk into the very first Victoria's Secret. It doesn't look like a store. It looks like a Victorian library or a high-end gentleman's club. There are deep, dark wood panels on the walls. The sofas are upholstered in rich red velvet. Oriental rugs cover the floors. It's framed on the walls like museum pieces. The name Victoria's Secret is carefully chosen. It's a myth that it was named after Queen Victoria's sex life. The reality is much more calculated. Raymond chose Victoria to evoke the propriety and stiffness of the Victorian era on the outside, and Secret to hint at the scandalous, silky unmentionables underneath the heavy dresses. It was about the thrill of the contrast. It works. In the first year alone, they rake in $500,000. By 1982, they have 5 stores and a booming mail-order catalogue. They are grossing $6 million a year. To Roy Raymond, it looks like he has won. He has disrupted the market. He is the king of lingerie. But here's the kicker. He has made a fatal error. A mistake so subtle, yet so devastating, that it will eventually cost him his life. He built the store for men. The dark wood, the velvet, the catalogue. It was all designed for the male gaze. It was a place where men could buy sex objects for their wives without feeling judged. In fact, the mail-order catalogue accounted for 55% of their sales because men preferred shopping from the safety of their own homes. But think about that for a second. Who actually wears the underwear? By 1982, the novelty is wearing off. The company is facing a cash flow crisis. They are inching toward bankruptcy. Why? Because women, the actual customers, don't like shopping in a place that feels like a burlesque brothel. They feel uncomfortable. The male gaze strategy has hit a glass ceiling. Roy is drowning in debt. He needs a lifeline. Enter Leslie Les Wexner. If Roy Raymond is the tragic artist, Les Wexner is the shark. Wexner is the founder of The Limited, a retail genius who understands the psychology of shopping better than anyone alive. Years later, he would describe the sensory experience with brutal honesty. It was a small store, and it was Victorian, not English Victorian, but brothel Victorian, with red velvet sofas. Wexner sees the mess, but he also sees the gold mine hidden underneath. He sees the female fantasy that Raymond is blind to. He makes Roy an offer, 1 million. Now, imagine being Roy Raymond in 1982. 1 million is a lot of money. It's life-changing. It solves your debt, it saves your reputation, and it lets you walk away a winner. Or so you think. He stays on as president for about a year, but the writing is on the wall. He is yesterday's news. He hands over the keys to his kingdom. This is where it gets crazy. The moment Roy steps out, Les Wexner guts the company. He tears down the dark wood paneling. He throws out the red velvet sofas. He replaces the brothel vibe with the European luxury vibe. What you hear, classical music, specifically the London Symphony Orchestra, playing softly in the background. What you smell, potpourri sachets, placed in every single drawer and shopping bag to create a scent memory of luxury. What you see, soft pinks, gold gilding, flowery wallpaper, and warm, inviting light. Wexner flips the script. He stops selling lingerie to men as a gift and starts selling it to women as a way to feel glamorous. He creates a fake founder, Victoria Stewart White, a 36-year-old half-French, half-English woman living in London, to give the brand a backstory that women can aspire to. The result is explosive. By the early 1990s, Victoria's Secret is the largest lingerie retailer in the United States. The value skyrockets from the 1 million Roy sold it for to over 1 billion. Meanwhile, what is Roy Raymond doing? If you've seen the movie The Social Network, you might think you know. The movie implies the founder jumps off a bridge shortly after the company blows up. But that's a Hollywood myth. The reality is a slow, agonizing burn that lasts for 11 years. After selling Victoria's Secret, Roy takes his earnings, about $850,000 after taxes, and pours it into a new dream. He wants to build a legacy for his children, Scott and Laura. He opens a store called My Child's Destiny. It's a high-end children's store in San Francisco, and just like Victoria's Secret, it is beautiful. It sells imported toys, gorgeous clothing, and books. But Roy hasn't learned his lesson. He creates a store that is too elitist. He is selling $50 haircuts for toddlers and imported European toys to yuppie parents. It's the 1980s version of the pink tax overpricing products just because they are curated. And the business model is flawed. In 1986, just 4 years after selling Victoria's Secret, My Child's Destiny files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. But here is the devastating detail that most textbooks leave out. Roy hadn't incorporated the company properly. Because of this legal oversight, he isn't just losing the business, he is personally liable for the debts. The bank comes for everything. They take his home in San Francisco, they take his vacation home in Lake Tahoe, they take his cars, they take his pride. His wife, Gay, who had been his partner through the rise of Victoria's Secret, stands by him as long as she can. But the financial strain is like a poison. In 1990, they divorce. Now, picture Roy Raymond in 1993. He is 46 years old. He is living in a small apartment. He is balding, wearing a toupee to hide it, a small, sad attempt to hold on to an image of youth and success. He watches from the sidelines as Les Wexner turns his little lingerie store into a global empire. He sees the news reports. It's becoming a cultural icon. The valuation is climbing higher and higher. 500 million, 800 million, 1 billion. Wexner later said of Raymond, "When I met him, it was as if he met the devil." It's a chilling quote. Roy felt he had made a deal with the devil to save his company, only to watch the devil become the hero of the story. Roy tries to start other businesses. A children's bookstore, a home repair hardware store, a wig company for women undergoing chemotherapy. He is desperate to catch lightning in a bottle twice, but the magic is gone. He borrows money from friends. He borrows money from family. He is drowning in a sea of what-ifs. What if he had listened to the female customers? What if he hadn't sold so early? What if he had protected his assets? The psychological weight of the valuation gap, the difference between the 1 million he got and the 1 billion it was worth, becomes a prison. We are back on the Golden Gate Bridge, August 26, 1993. They describe a man walking, just walking. He pauses at the railing. He looks out at the Marin headlands, where the fog hugs the coastline. The police later find a note. It doesn't contain a manifesto against corporate greed. It doesn't blame Les Wexner. It is heartbreakingly simple. He writes that he is sorry and that he had not been thinking clearly. He jumps. His body is found by the Coast Guard a week later, washed up near the shoreline. 2 years after his death, in 1995, Victoria's Secret holds its very first fashion show. It is a spectacle of glitz, glamour, and supermodels. It cements the brand's shift from Victorian propriety to supermodel fantasy. The brand would eventually hit a peak valuation of roughly $29 billion in 2015. History is repeating itself right now, and we are ignoring the signs. Raymond failed because he built a brand for the male gaze, what men wanted to see, instead of the female reality, what women wanted to wear. Ironically, decades later, Victoria's Secret made the exact same mistake. In the 2010s and 20s, the brand refused to adapt. They stuck to the supermodel fantasy, while women began demanding inclusivity, comfort, and body positivity. Brands like Aerie and Third Love modern disruptors came in and stole their market share, just like Wexner stole Raymond's. Victoria's Secret stock crashed. They cancelled the fashion show. The angels were retired. The cycle of hubris is a perfect circle. Raymond's story isn't just about money. It's about the devastating human cost of the founder's curse. It's about the inability to let go of your original vision when the world changes around you. He had the right idea at the right time, but for the wrong person. And when he tried to build My Child's Destiny, he swung too far the other way, trying to be too perfect, too elite, alienating the very people he needed to serve. So, the next time you walk past a Victoria's Secret, don't just look at the pink stripes and the sales signs. Remember the man who started it all in a panic to buy his wife a gift. Remember the red velvet sofas. And remember the tragedy of the man who walked onto a bridge, haunted by the billion-dollar ghost of what could have been. If you think this story is tragic, wait until you hear about the founder of Kodak, who invented the very technology that destroyed his company. But that's a story for another time. Hit that subscribe button because we are digging up the graves of history's most misunderstood figures, and you do not want to be left in the dark. And tell me in the comments, if you were Raymond, could you have lived with watching your creation become a billion-dollar empire without you? Or would the regret be too much? Let's talk about it.